Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Sunday Live. And Brenda Wanga, that Citizen Planet was extremely moving. Just listening to Joseph, Dan and Fox's stories. You can share your thoughts. The SMS line is 22422. You can also reach us on X at Obarrows at Citizen TV Kenya. And the hashtag is Citizen Sunday Live. In 2009, long before she became First Lady, Rachel Ruto founded Joyful Women Organization, a non-profit to empower women excluded from the financial sector. Joyful Women has been facilitating economic empowerment through the table banking model, where women form groups, save money, borrow and repay. She sat down with Nimord Tabu to reflect on the empowerment journey 16 years later. Take a look.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for having us here in Eldoret in the County of Uasin Gishu. We truly are blessed to have you and also share with us a little bit about table banking. You're celebrating 16 years of what a noble cause this has been. But Your Excellency, let's start with the first question, which is, for people who understand banking, it's very different from what table banking is today. Table banking is a very simple idea. But what is the philosophy about table banking? And as I understand, there are human truths, which is experiences and examples from people you've touched their lives through table banking. But what was the philosophy behind table banking as you started 16 years ago?
Thank you. So thank you so much, Nimrod, and it's really good to have you. I can say that the philosophy of table banking was really going down to those that had not been reached. You realize that many commercial banks, for example, the people that really get access into those banks are the people who live in cities and into towns. But the table banking concept and its philosophy is going to the unreached, to the excluded financially. And for us at Joyful Women, it was the women of this country. And that is why we went down to the rural areas, to the villages, to teach women issues of financial inclusion. Because these people in the rural areas, women, even and men, they do small businesses. And some of them have to travel, many kilometers to go into towns or cities into a commercial bank. But when you think about table banking, it's like really bringing the bank right into the comfort of your sitting room, into that table, on that sitting room. That is why it is called table banking. So it was really more, building these people and telling them that, it is possible for you. You are also like the people who do businesses in the city. The money that you make in the rural areas, you can also come onto this table, save your money, borrow, and continue to build your enterprises. So I can say that that was really the philosophy, reaching the unreached and telling them that, they also play a big part, in the economy of this nation. And even the money that sometimes they even, get by selling their enterprises, instead of keeping them in the house, bring them onto the table. Let's have this group so that this money can circulate and we can grow this money, so that we can even do bigger things. And with time, the table banking, they have grown and they have even gone to the commercial banks and to the microfinance institutions.
All right. Banking as we know it is a high-risk business. And this has been a hindrance, especially for the women in Kenya, accessing finance. There's an issue about trustworthiness. Do you think that was a hindrance before, so that women were not able to access financial assistance, and therefore table banking has changed that altogether for them?
Sure. The thing also about the loans, the commercial loans, is that I think those many years, there was a concept that people really started fearing. And even especially the farmers, because I remember growing up in the rural areas, people really feared, loans, because they imagined that maybe if I take a loan and I'm not able to repay, something of mine, might be repossessed. Maybe my farm, I may put my family into a lot of trouble. But of course, table banking has changed that narrative, because these women can see their money. You know, sometimes also with the bank, I think when you have to go and bank your money, verify in a bank, you're not really sure. But, you know, table banking has changed that because these women are able to see their money, because when they save this money, they actually see that it is going back into their pockets. They see the money coming in saving and then in borrowing, and it goes back into the pockets. So it has really changed that concept to say that it has actually demystified that concept of thinking that, you know, I cannot even go to a commercial bank. And I've really seen that even, you know, that mind shift, that mindset change among the women and even among even the few men that continue to do table banking.
Okay. Your Excellency, this was a small idea from the rural to the rural people, and it has become so huge. It wasn't about targeting the people or the women in urban centers, but just the ones in the rural areas. What has surprised you most? The uptake, these women coming together in huge groups, deciding that they're going to start a group in order to do table banking. What has surprised you most?
Actually, what has surprised me so much, Nimrod, like you say, is the exponential growth. Like when we began with very few women, we thought it could remain there. Little did we know that this concept of table banking is what the people are waiting for. It actually came to fill a gap because, you know, women naturally, if I may go back, is that they are always in a chama, as we call them in Kenya. But what they were doing at the beginning was just the normal merry-go-rounds, where, you know, we give you money this month, then the next month we go to the other woman, and then we go around like that. But, you know, when the table banking concept came, it gave everybody an equal chance, you know, closing that gap. That when we come to the table, like I said, we can save and actually borrow, each one of us. I don't have to wait for 12 months. I don't have to wait for, you know, 24 months before I can get my money. Because, you know, when women wait for so long, even prices of things change. And maybe the business that I wanted to do that time, I'm not able to do. So I have seen this table banking really fill that gap and grow exponentially. Like we started in small villages. Before long, we were in the whole constituency of Eldoret, not that time. And of course, when Echi became deputy president in 2013, we took this concept to the entire nation. And we saw just the money of the women grow, you know, from saving 50 shillings, from saving 100 shillings. A woman started saving 500 shillings. You know, they started taking bigger loans. And in that taking bigger loans, they started growing their business. And it has really taught me that with the availability of finances, women can do great things. You know, maybe somebody started with chicken. Before long, they have sheep. Before long, they have a cow. Before long, they have a kiosk. Before long, they have even bought a plot and they are putting up a building. So I have really seen what table banking can do and what availability of finances to people of Kenya and even to our women can do. It just grows the economy. You know, when we talk about the total revolving fund, I remember those early days, we could talk about 60,000 revolving fund this week. The next week, we talk about, you know, 150,000. And today, we talk about billions when you put it all together. You see the billions that the women revolve, and this money is in the economy. They use it every day to do their businesses. So I've really seen growth. And it really impresses me just to see that the lives of these women can be changed, you know, by just giving them that opportunity, sometimes that opportunity that they lack.
I'll let you give us examples of some of the women and some of the successes. But before we get there, Your Excellency, maybe let me ask this question. This is truly an entrepreneurship. But like any other business, there has challenges, there are ups and downs. Which to you were the biggest challenges when you started this? And then two, were there challenges that you felt at the beginning that were insurmountable?
You're very right, Nimrod. First of all, for me, the challenges that, you know, I saw those days was when I personally went, you know, to the rural areas and to the communities, training the women on the concept of table banking. And sometimes when you go to train and you're telling them this concept that, of course, was written by government, you are not sure whether this woman would actually receive it. So we would go to meetings, we talk to them about the concept of table banking, and we let them think. So for me at the beginning, I was like, you know, maybe we are doing something, you know, that will not really see the light of day because of that belief, you know, because, you know, issues of money are very emotive issues. You are talking about money. So at that time, I saw that challenge that, I was not sure whether the women would really pick that concept of table banking. And secondly, Nimrod, of course, the issues of money. After the women had received this concept of table banking, embraced it, there are challenges that come, especially with default. You have taken your loan from your table, you have gone, you've put it in a certain business, but maybe something happens, especially most of the women that we worked with were in the agricultural sector. Maybe the rains failed that year. Maybe I planted late. Maybe something came, some pests, insects or something came and destroyed my crops. And I don't have money to take back to my group. So we started seeing trends of now defaults. And this is money that belongs to many women. So we have not been without challenges. But we have continued to do capacity building. We have continued to bring solutions here and there. We have worked with different partners just to help these women surmount these problems. And I can also tell you, even as an organization, because when an organization starts small and then it grows, it comes with challenges, especially challenges of human resource. So sometimes, training the right people, getting the right people to be able, because we have the teachers, we call them teachers, that sit with these women when they are doing their table banking, just to help them through the table banking. So at one point, of course, because also the organization was growing very fast, we started having challenges of human resource. But I must say that, by the grace of God, we have continued to surmount these challenges. And 16 years, you can see, we have not given up. We would have closed shop and said, this thing is not doable, but we have never given up.
All right. Your Excellency, I'd like to know how you were able to circumvent and deal with financial illiteracy. Because, when you're dealing with rural areas, you'll find that a lot of women, young women who are newly married, do not really understand what financial literacy is. And then add to that, there's the issue of culture. How did you think men perceived women who were willing to become entrepreneurs through table banking? And was that a challenge? Was that a hindrance? And how did you go about it?
You're very right. The issues of financial literacy are issues that we had to deal with. And what we did is we partnered with the partners that were dealing with their financial literacy. Like I can tell you that we approached banks, for example. Different banks, let me not name the banks, but different banks. And we asked them, because we did not have the capacity that time, we asked them to come to the ground with us. And now that the women were also growing their business, that maybe the women could also open now, accounts, with those banks. So they came and they went on the ground and they started training women on financial literacy. Just telling a woman that, yes, you're here, you have your small farm, you have your small kiosk. How do you do your books, Do you pay yourself a salary? I remember that is a question that they asked most of the women. Do you pay yourself a salary or you do it as a charity? And so the women started understanding. And when it comes to the issues of women and money and men, I can tell you, Nimrod, that the men have been very, very supportive when it comes to women and table banking. Because, table banking is done in homes. So you cannot, especially for women, who are married, your husband will know that, you have visitors today and you are coming to do your chamas. So the men, I can say, have been very, very supportive. I remember Nimrod, one time, one lady really wanting to join a table banking group, and she did not have money. She borrowed 1,000 shillings from her husband that morning and told him, I'm going for a table banking group. And when she went for that table banking group, she saved that 1,000 shillings. Because it was a short-term loan, she borrowed ×2 her saving, and she got 2,000. And she took it back home, repaid her husband the 1,000, and used the 1,000 that she had borrowed to start her business. And I remember when I visited this lady, she had started doing tree nurseries, and she was selling the seedlings, to the schools, to the neighbors. Every market day, she used to take the seedlings to the market and she used to sell them. And that lady, when I met her, said that she had really desired to learn computers. And through table banking, she had enrolled with the nearby computer school in her shopping center. And now she was learning to use computers because she told me that, Mom, I know the Kenya of tomorrow, you have to be a little bit tech. You need to know how to use computers. And she continued growing. So men have been very supportive. I can assure you, at least I have seen that. Sometimes even the women were not, maybe because of the business, they were not able to pay. The men gave them the money. And sometimes even when the women borrowed that money, they brought it home and they were able to use it, to do business together, with the family. So we men have been very supportive, I can say.
Thank you, Excellency. Your Excellency, my next question is about, celebrating 16 years. It's not, simply 12 years added into 16 years. It's been tough. I know it's been challenging, but I'm sure you look back and you're happy about it. Today, you're talking about 240,000 women who are engaging in table banking. You have more than 4,500 groups. If I'm not wrong, I understand the concept actually started from here. Yes. Just tell us how simple it was to start it and what gave you the drive to start it and how did it come about?
Thank you so much, Nimrod. I'm so excited and I thank God every time I think about the 16 years we are celebrating. Nimrod, right here where we are seated, Joyful Women Organization was started on the 29th of August of 2009 under this tree where we are today. In 1997, when His Excellency, now our President, was taking his first chance in the politics of Eldoret North, I helped him to campaign, just going to talk to the women. And Nimrod, I'll never forget this day when I went to one of the villages, and as I was talking to about 50 women who were just seated under a tree, just, on grass, right seated in front of me was this one lady who was very joyful. She had the broadest smile. She was looking at me, talking to them. But when I looked closely, she did not have shoes. And she looked like she had not even had breakfast. I remember looking at her, and my mind started spinning. And I asked myself, how is it possible that she came to this meeting without shoes? What about her children? And that is the time I made a prayer to God. I didn't tell them anything. In my mind, I just made a prayer to God and I said, if my husband makes it to Parliament, I want to come back and do something with these women, something that transforms them, something that will enable every woman to put shoes on her feet, something that will enable the women dress well, something that will enable the women, do something for their families. And I remember by the grace of God, Echi made it to Parliament in that December of 1997. And we went back to the city. I used to come back to the village. But I was wondering, so what do I do with these women? Because I was looking for sustainability. I wanted something that would sustain itself. Because I didn't want just to give, handouts. Because, that has its lifetime. So I really wanted something that was sustainable. And by the grace of God, 12 years later, now in 2009, I came across the concept of table banking, which is a concept that had been actually crafted by the then Poverty Eradication Commission. And after going through the document, I asked if I could go to a place that concept had been piloted, and it had been piloted in Bondo and in Gatanga. So I went to Gatanga with friends of mine, and I saw table banking really being done practically. And immediately I knew that was the thing. And that is when, on the 29th of August of 2009, I came back to Eldoret North under this tree with 60 women, and Joyful Women was born, to carry the concept of table banking to the women of Eldoret North, the concept of financially including them, the concept of telling that you have this money on your hand, do business. Do not depend on your husband. Support your husband for those who are married. For single mothers, support your children. Let's support one another. Let's learn what it means to make money. And looking at 16 years, because after that it was Eldoret North, and then now 2014, 2015, it was, traversing the nation of Kenya, when Echi was deputy president, and we went to every county of this country. And even after that, we went to villages, teaching women issues of financial inclusion and telling them when you have your money, you can do great things. And I can tell you, Nimrod, 240,000 members and counting, each one of them has a story. If we were to tell their stories, we will tell them for the next century. We'll tell them for so many years. I just like to hear those stories, how they began, not having money, but going into the tables, borrowing, that togetherness, women coming together, loving one another. Because in table banking, we usually tell women, do not go and look for women from very far. Just bring your neighbors. And apart from table banking, just the money that they do, there is that social aspect also, where they meet because we are neighbors, My daughter is getting married, my son is getting married, let's come together. Maybe I've lost a loved one, let's come right together. So we have also seen that table banking has also brought that closeness, and the women and the neighbors have become very neat. So it's exciting. And every year from 2010, we celebrate these women. We began celebrating them, here in Eldoret North, now, Uasin Gishu County. And then we came to the stadium here when the people in Nandi and the people of Trans Nzoia joined. And now when we went to the entire country, we celebrate it in Nairobi. And Nimrod, I hope you have time to join us that day. You can just see the joy and the happiness in the faces of those women. You see them having transformed their lives. You see them dancing and just being joyful. So for me, it is really, really exciting, despite the challenges like we've shared that we've gone through. But, we are looking at the future, and we are seeing, even beyond the 16 years.
Mm-hmm. Your Excellency, I know, as you say, there's so many experiences and examples we can draw from women who have been very successful through table banking. But I'd like you to share with us and Kenyans, which one speaks volume the most? An incident where, somebody came from, very low income earning, joined table banking. Today, they're huge entrepreneurs. Maybe you could just share an example. One that speaks huge volumes to you.
You're very right, Nimrod. There are many stories. But allow me to share with you the story of one lady who is differently able, even right now. I attended a meeting, and this lady actually put her hand up because she wanted to give her story. And when she gave her story, we realized that in that county, she was the highest saver. And being the highest saver in that county, you can imagine a woman that is differently able. She told us that she wanted to buy a tractor so that she can be using that tractor, to till her land, and for the tractor to be rented so that other people can use, so that she can continue having an income. And she actually got the tractor after that day. And later on, she said that she wanted to build a petrol station. And she has been able to build that petrol station. So you can imagine a woman that is differently abled, being the top saver, buying a tractor and building a petrol station. And she has continued to encourage other women, because women go to her even to learn from her and to see what she's doing. So I can say that is one story that has really touched me, apart from many others. The other one that really touched me was a group of women in one of the counties in our nation. I remember they came for a meeting and they were asked to give their story. And you can imagine, Nimrod, 15 women. They had started saving 200 shillings, 500 shillings. When I met them, that was about 5 years after they had begun their table banking. Each one of them had bought a plot in their city, in their county headquarters. And they had not just bought the plot, but they had started constructing rental houses. And maybe, God willing, I'll go back now and see whether they finished. I'm sure they finished. So those are the stories that really touch my heart. And like I say, every woman has a story. It is very encouraging when you listen to them.
All right. Your Excellency, my final two questions. One, what next for Joyful Women 16 years later? What should we expect? What should women in this country expect?
16 years going forward, Nimrod, I'm looking at building the next captains of industry, the next entrepreneurs. I could say building the next billionaires in this country. we have been doing table banking. We want to grow these women, to tell them, yes, you're doing table banking. But we want to bring more capacity building, to tell you that you can now grow your businesses. For example, if you have a kiosk, can you do a mini market? Can you move into a supermarket? So I want to see how we will continue working with these women, the same ones that have been doing table banking, to the next level, where we can say that they have done great things and we can see that their businesses have grown and they have gone beyond. And I know that is doable because I have seen them come from nothing to where they are today. And so just holding them for the next phase of their businesses and the next phase of their life. So we are really looking forward to building, the next great women, business women, captains of industry, names that will come from nowhere, names that are not known, but they'll have come from the story of table banking.
Okay. Your Excellency, my final question. As the name suggests, Joyful Women, it purely targets women. But I'd like to ask a question for you, who's a mother, who's a leader, about the young girl today who's about to give up in life. They've gone to university, they have literacy, but they cannot succeed. They don't know how to get into table banking, or somehow they think table banking is for the rural women. What do you have to say to them? What message do you have to them? Some of them who probably feel like the political class, both for men and women, has sort of let them down. They hardly get opportunity to get employment. Is table banking for that young girl too?
Thank you, Nimrod. I want to say that table banking is also for the young girls. In fact, I remember when we started those many years, the mothers did not leave their daughters. The mothers did not leave their daughters-in-laws. And even in our groups of table banking today, we have young girls. We've actually gone digital because we realized that that was a big hindrance. Because for many years, we used to do our things manually, but we realized that our young girls, would love to go to the next level of doing table banking digitally. So I want to tell our young girls that they should not be left behind. We talk about small beginnings. Sometimes when people look at table banking and they look at the 50 shillings or the 100 shillings, they think like, no, this is very little. But for our young girls, I want to tell them, let them start small. Now we have gone digital. They can use their phones to do their table banking. Let them come together with their friends, I have young girls who have come together when they get to the age of 18. They start their table banking group. We have one group of young girls who started like that. And now that they're 28 years old, so they've been doing table banking for 28 years. But they told us that we are not able to do this thing manually. That's how we went digital. So I want to tell our young girls that table banking is for them. And they can also grow the same way that their mothers have grown. And they will do great things the same way their mothers have done. I want to invite our young girls to join table banking because there is a place for them.